Hey, what's happening? Happy Sunday, everybody. It's Daryl here. It's bright and freaking early. It's 4:30 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. Let me say this first and foremost. A couple of my last videos got yellow lighted. Means they probably won't get advertising because somehow I mentioned something or I didn't check off the right box when I went to download the video. And let me say this first and foremost. The reason I talk about these things, and I like what I'm going to talk about today, COOLIO and his autopsy being deferred, and what happened with him, what it was, what it might have been, what it might not have been, and things that it made me think about. Okay, and I'm just going to share that with you, and hopefully sharing the mistakes I made, the near fatal mistakes I made that ruined my career, put me apart from my family, all this stuff. By sharing my experiences with you guys, it'll help somebody. If it could just help one person, just one person, not go through what I did, then all this will be worth it. The 1,800 videos I have done will be worth it if I could just help one single person not go through what I went through. The reason I say this is the last couple of videos I made, especially the Aaron Carter, the second one, which has gotten the most views I've gotten all month, and it got yellow lighted, which means it gets no advertising, which really sucks, man. I finally get a video with a lot of views, and there's no advertising on it, but it is what it is. So the reason I'm talking about this is not to glamorize. It's not to make people look bad. It's not to name drop stars' names. When I see these stories, I know that it's something other people can relate to. A lot of times when I talk about myself and things that have happened to myself, it doesn't get as many views because I'm not, people don't know who I am. But when I could relate that's my story to a star, then it gets views. It gets more attention, and that's the point of all this. It's really not for views. If I could positively affect one person's life, this will all be worth it. And that's all I want to say about that. So I'm going to have to talk. I'm going to have to say the words I'm going to have to say in this video. COOLIO. Okay, so I heard that he passed away in the last month or two. I'll have links down below. To be honest, I don't know the exact date. I've been looking up the autopsy results on COOLIO, and they have been deferred also. There's a lot of similarities between Aaron Carter and COOLIO. They both died in the bathroom. Both of their autopsy results are deferred, and I've been looking into this. What does it mean when autopsy results are deferred? It usually means that there has to be toxicology reports to get a more solid reason for passing. And, I got deep into it without really getting any answers. With COOLIO, I heard some crazy stuff. I found some crazy stuff online that I'm not even going to say because I don't want to put misinformation out there. But I didn't know this was happening. But there was some crazy talk about what COOLIO passed away from. Something I didn't even know existed. Sudden, I think it sounds like a joke, sudden adult death syndrome, like their sudden infant. I've never heard this in my life, and it's attached to something else too. And it's nonsense is what it is. And so I started looking into this, and there's still no answer to this yet, but it reminded me of something that happened to me. COOLIO was a previous crack cocaine user, just like I was. And to this day, I wonder if there is damage to my heart. I think that's part of the reason I exercise like 4 hours a day is to build my heart. I love life. My life is so good now. I just keep thinking something's going to go wrong. I saw that COOLIO was 59 when he passed away, and I bet you a lot of you guys do this too. I saw the number 59, and I was like, wow, he was kind of old. Maybe it was a heart attack. And then in my head, for some reason, I was thinking I was like I don't know why I was thinking this, but I was thinking I was like 47 or something. And then I just realized he's only 2 years older than me. I'm going to be 57 very shortly. And I'm sure you guys go through this all the time too. You see that number out there, And you're like, oh my gosh, that person's old. And then you realize you're the same age as that person. Okay, so let's get back to Coolio. He had previous issues. I couldn't find out exactly how long he'd been clean sober. The purpose of this video, I'm not trying to throw shade on Coolio or anything like that. There's things that remind me of things I've gone through. There was no paraphernalia or anything found at the scene, and that's good. It's not good, but you know what I'm saying. But then also I remembered when I was in situations like this, and one of my friends, when there was a possible OD, I've talked about that in another video, when I left a group of my friends and one of them passed away as I was leaving. I didn't even realize that was happening. I think people have a tendency to panic and hide everything before the police get there. Coolio he was at a friend's house, and I think it's human nature. If somebody walked into the bathroom, I'm not saying this is what happened, but it's human nature to walk in the bathroom, and if you see some paraphernalia there, and it's your house, you panic. The police are going to come here and find this and this, Coolio passed, and this stuff in your house. And I I'm not saying this happened, but I've seen it happen before in my circumstances. So, that doesn't say a whole lot either one way or the other. Like I said, he had previous problems with addiction, and there's nothing to say that that's what this was about. So I can't say one way or the other. This reminded me of a couple things I went through. I was, until I got cross-addicted with opiates, I had back surgery, and then I was initially addicted to crack cocaine. And then I had back surgery, and I started using opiates, and then heroin, and then it was heroin and crack and liquor every single day, day in and day out. But initially, at first, it was crack. And I remember being in the hospital in detox, and this still sticks in my head to this day. It was at the nurse's station, and it was in Hartford Hospital, I think it was. St. Francis Hospital in Hartford, Connecticut, detox. And there was a photocopy, a picture on the wall of an autopsy of a human heart. And it had an arrow pointing to one of the chambers. There's 4 chambers in the human heart. And it was blown out. There was actually where a thinner part of the heart wall had blown out due to excessive crack cocaine use. This is stuck in my head. This was back in 2001 or 2002. 2003, and 20 years ago, and it's still so vivid, that picture. I think these little things all added up to me getting into recovery. One of the things that sticks out when I saw this story on Coolio passing, I remember one of the times that I might have possibly had a heart attack myself. I'm still not even sure if I did or not. Let me tell you about it. I had actually gotten fired that day. I had a great Teamster job driving a truck. I had that job for 7 years. I had worked my way up in the company, but I had a problem. Every Wednesday or Thursday when I got paid Thursday, but I would grab the check Wednesday. I would spend the entire check, and I'd come in a mess, having not slept every single Thursday or Friday. And the people that worked with me, the bosses, they knew it. And there were random drug tests. I knew that they were there. Sooner or later I was going to get called. And sooner or later I came in on a Thursday after partying all night, being up all night, Wednesday night. And they said, Daryl, you have to be accompanied right now with this guy, one of the bosses, to the testing station, the walk-in clinic, and give a urine. You've been picked. And I knew right there, I'm done. I'm done. There's no ifs, ands, or about it. I'm losing a 7-year job. I'm not going to be able to pay my rent, my car. Anyway, everything's gone. And I just, I went down. The next morning, I walked into work, and they said, you're not going out in the truck today, Daryl. We want you to stick around for a couple hours, because I'm going to work at 4 or 5 a.m. We want you to wait here until the bosses come in at 8. Just sit in the corner and wait quietly for 2 or 3 hours. And I knew I was fired. And I was like, look, I'm fired, right? It came back positive. I wasn't going to play the games. Other people had gotten fired for this, and they swore up and down that it was a mistake and all this other stuff. I didn't even bother. I just, it's like, I'm fired, right? And they said, well, we can't tell you. And I ended up just walking out. And I walked a good 10 miles home at like 8 o'clock that morning, walking back home after just getting fired from a great Teamster job. Today, what I was getting paid would probably be equal to about $50,000 or $60,000, what I was getting paid back then. And I walked home. They gave me 2 weeks severance before I walked out the door. 2 weeks severance, and that was it. And that night, I ended up cashing those 2 checks. That night, I spent every cent. I didn't have a death wish or anything, but I spent every cent on crack cocaine that night, sitting in my room by myself in my underwear on the floor, just going more. And I just did it. It wasn't, because I felt bad, because I was depressed. It was just because I had the money and I could, and I didn't have to go to work the next day. That's, to be honest. And I got to a point where I couldn't breathe. This is what I'm talking about now. And I swear to God, I got a numbness and pain in my left arm, sitting there all by myself at like 2 or 3 a.m. in my underwear, soaked in sweat, after having gone through hundreds of dollars worth of this stuff. And, it eventually passed. And, and then I went and found another job, truck driving, and they told me that I'd have to take a drug test within 2 or 3 days to finalize my employment. And I couldn't even stay clean, even though I knew the drug test was coming in 3 days. I couldn't even stay clean for 3 days, and I failed that. And that was a low point in my life. But when I heard about this COOLIO, the whole situation with him having been in what I would call recovery himself, and what happened there, it reminded me of this incident, and it was hurt. That, that's the last way that anyone wants to pass, to be found like that, a wet, disheveled lump, soaked in sweat. It's probably, well, if they found, people wouldn't find me because I didn't really hang out with friends or family at that point. I probably wouldn't have been found until people smelled me, seriously, in 5 or 6 days, in my underwear on the floor with paraphernalia all over the place. It's no way to go. It's no way to go, man. For any human being, for any living thing. Recovery is possible. Like I said, I'm not trying to cast any shade on COOLIO. It could be this, it might not be that. He was 59 years old. And it's possible that it was just a heart attack. It could happen. It does happen. I don't know his history. I'm not a doctor, but it also could be something else. And it just reminded me, I just wanted to share this with you guys, especially that thing about the picture of that heart with the blown out chamber. And since I've been clean and sober in the last 3 years, I've lost at least 4 of the people I used to hang out with from heart attacks, because they continued using this substance, and they're my age, and they passed away of heart attacks. In the last 3 years, 4 of them have passed away from similar situations. That's what I wanted to talk about. I pray for his family. God bless you all, and recovery is possible. Have a good Sunday.